Now, an enrollment process for obtaining the national identity and voters' cards is a subject of controversy in Ivory Coast. While Ivorians expected the government to facilitate an easy one, many are disappointed to see only 118 enrollment centers across the country. And that number is much lower than that of 2009, which was held for the presidential election of 2010. So why are registration centers low this time in Ivory Coast? We talk about this in just a moment. But first off, just some more background here. Ivory Coast presidential election comes up in just 7 months, Bridget.
Exactly, Jerry. In total, 11 million Ivorians are expected in these 118 registration centers. Obviously, these centers are overcrowded and the wait is considered endless. In some centers, many are forced to return the next day because they have not been received. There is also the case of faulty registration machines. For example, as was the case in Makori, a commune in Abidjan, the capital. Last week, the government spokesperson, Sid Touré, acknowledged that the number of centers was indeed insufficient and indicated that the Ministry of Territorial Administration was working on the issue.
With us now is our correspondent from Ivory Coast, Ebran Bru. Ebran is with us this morning from Abidjan. Good morning to you and a warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us. So we have a controversy here and criticisms of the enrollment operations to obtain the identity card, which will allow Ivorian voters to register on the electoral list for the presidential election in October. Ebran, tell us, what really are the issues here?
Bonjour. Oui, en effet, cette opération est sujette
Yes, indeed. This operation is subject to much criticism from both opposition political parties and civil society in general. Ivorians as a whole are amazed by the number of registration centers opened by the government for the production of national identity cards. There are a total of 118 centers throughout the country. This seems very insufficient for many observers. It's true that comparison is not right, but under the former government led by Laurent Gbagbo, in 2009, there were 11,000 registration centers across the country. Faced with this situation, several voices are raised to cry out their indignation about, above all, the castigation of the wickedness of the government, as the journalists said on social networks. As mentioned earlier, the 118 registration centers for the whole country are clearly insufficient. Absolutely. It's obvious that 118 registration centers for such a major operation targeting more than 11 million Ivorians is like a drop in the ocean. Some see this as a manipulation by the government to prevent a large number of Ivorians from being enlisted to take part in the presidential election on 31st October, according to the Minister of Construction, Aki Folsi, a very influential figure in the country. Nevertheless, a controversy is underway at the moment. Some government officials are allegedly financing the production of national identity cards for people in the regions. To this, Minister Bruno Nagbe Kone says that the government is not involved in this action in any way. He nevertheless confirms that it's a selfless gesture on the part of officials of the different regions concerned to help their populations to have national identity cards.
So in the face of all of these criticisms, what does the government say, notably the Interior Ministry?
Well, for the moment, Sidiki Dikite, Minister of Decentralization and Territorial Administration, has not yet officially communicated on this controversy. But it's very likely that he will do so in the next few days, given that the subject is much debated in all social strata in Côte d'Ivoire. The issue of national identity cards is very much on trend at the moment in the country, because it's the sine qua non condition to being enlisted to take part in the presidential elections. For his part, the opponent, Mamadou Koulibaly, the declared candidate for the presidential election, urged his supporters in particular and Ivorians in general to register despite the imperfections of the process. It should therefore be noted that the issue of national identity cards in Côte d'Ivoire is very sensitive. In 2002, at the start of his rebellion, Guillaume Soro had indicated that the main reason he took up arms with his supporters was linked to the fact that some Ivorians were denied the Ivorian national identity card on the pretext that they were immigrants. 18 years after this fight, which took the lives of several Ivorians, several questions are being asked about the objectivity of this fight in the face of this controversy over the conditions for obtaining the national identity cards.
Cette polémique sur les conditions de l'obtention de la carte nationale d'identité.